for Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And my question is to the Premier. Speaker, everyone knows that the last Conservative government made wrong decisions about the 407 toll route, and now clearly this Conservative government is too, and the public, both times, is losing out. According to a Toronto Star investigation published today, the Premier did indeed have the power to demand a $1 billion congestion penalty from the operators of the 407 ETR toll highway. Last year, we were told there was no congestion anywhere, so there was no justification for collecting a congestion penalty. But now we have proof of what everyone knew back then. All the highways were congested, except for the 407 ETR, because the tolls were too high. The tolls were too high because the Premier refused to enforce the contract. Why did the Premier give a $1 billion gift to the private operators of the 407 toll highway while failing to relieve congestion on all the other highways?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and I'm happy to answer that question this morning, and I'd like to welcome all my colleagues back to the chamber as well. Speaker, this last 2 years has been very difficult. It's been some unprecedented circumstances that all Ontarians have faced. They've had to comply with stay-at-home orders while fighting multiple waves of COVID-19, and this resulted in the 407 invoking the relief clause under the contract with the Ministry of Transportation. At the very beginning of the pandemic, our government froze tolls on highways 407 East, 412 and 418 to deliver more relief for drivers, and we will gladly compare our record on tolls with the Liberals supported by the NDP, Speaker. We have gone even further, and we've recently announced the permanent removal of tolls on highways 412 and 418. But there's more to be done, and that's why we are doing more. This morning, our government announced the elimination of fees for drivers across this province. This is real relief, Speaker. We're going to continue to support drivers across this entire province until we're back on that road to recovery and prosperity.
Thank you, Speaker. And again to the Premier. Every other highway was congested last year. Highway 407 was so underused that a plane could land on it without difficulty. $1 billion is a lot of money to forgive. Imagine how much $1 billion could support existing infrastructure. But even more interesting is the story that can be told if we allow congestion to grow instead of better utilizing the 407. This government is bent on justifying building the 413 through Hill and Dale. The Premier would rather let the private operators of the highway keep collecting excessively high tolls from drivers than enforce the contract and maximize traffic flow throughout the highway network. And now the Premier is using congestion as an excuse to waste $10 billion of public money on an unnecessary new highway through the Greenbelt, whose main beneficiaries are friends and donors of this Premier. So my question is this. Instead of wasting all of that money, why won't the Premier simply make better use of the underused 407 highway that is already there, and while he's at it, collect the $1 billion? Thanks.
The Associate Minister.
So, Speaker, there's some puzzling contradictions in the question here. On the one hand, the member's talking about congestion and how it affects Ontarians. We agree. In fact, the GTA is going to grow to 8.5 million people in the next 10 years. There's unprecedented growth on the way. That means more congestion on our highways, more need for transit system, more need for highways. And I think that's what the member is saying. But I'm also hearing the member say it's been a very difficult time for Ontarians, which means that people in this province need more relief. And that's exactly why we removed tolls on highways 412 and 418. That's why we're making life more affordable for drivers across this province, by doing the things that matter to people's pocketbooks, Speaker. I don't blame people for wanting to move to this great province. We're going to plan for the future, unlike the Liberals and the NDP.